am going to pray, and then I am going to play a quick video for you guys. And then I'm going to open it up and let us talk a little bit. And I only got like maybe 4 or 5 things that really hit hard for me out of this book that I want to share with you guys. But most of the time, I really just I want to get from you, because I know what this book is doing to me and for me. And I just want to know what's happening with God's people. All right, so Heavenly Father, I thank and bless you for this moment, for this time. May we all dwell in this present moment. May we not dwell in anything that's already happened or anything that may happen later, but may we be right here, right now, experiencing and loving your presence and each other in this moment. I thank you for the opportunity to serve you and your people. May you be edified and glorified by all things. In your name I pray. Amen, amen, amen.
You were right about one thing, Kevin. I have been watching. Couldn't help myself. Watching. Waiting. Holding my breath. But I'm no puppeteer, Kevin. I don't make things happen. Doesn't work like that.
What did you do to Marianne?
Free will. It's like butterfly wings. Once touched, they never get off the ground. No. I only set the stage. You pull your own strings. Got me! Got me! Yes! Wow! Oh, yeah! Yeah! Step on up, son! Come on, that's good! You gotta hold on to that fury! Yeah, that's the last thing to go. That's the final hiding place. It's the final fig leaf.
Who are you?
Who am I? Who are you? Never lost a case. Why? Why do you think? Because you're so f***ing good. Yeah? But why?
Because you're my father.
I'm a little more than that, Kevin. Awfully hot in that courtroom, wasn't it? What's the game plan, Kevin? Was a nice run, Kev. Had to close out someday. Nobody wins them all.
What are you?
Oh, I have so many names.
Say.
Call me Dad.
Marianne, she knew it. She knew it. She knew it, so you destroyed her.
You blaming me for Marianne? Oh, I hope you're kidding. Marianne, you could have saved her anytime you liked. All she wanted was love. Hey, you were too busy.
That's a lie.
Marianne in New York? Face it, you started looking to better deal her the minute you got here.
That's not true. You don't know what we had. You don't know anything about it.
Hey, I'm on your side.
You're a liar!
No, hey, Kevin, there's nothing out there for you. Don't be such a chump. Stop deluding yourself. I told you to take care of your wife. What did I say? The world would understand. Didn't I say that? What did you do?
You know what scares me, John? I leave the case, she gets better, and then I hate her for it.
Remember?
I know what you did. You set me up.
Who told you to pull out all the stops on Mr. Geddes? Who made that choice?
It's entrapment. You set me up.
And more yet, the direction you took. Popes, swamis, snake handlers, all feeding at the same trough. Whose ideas were those?
You played me! It was a test! Your test!
And Colin, knowing he was guilty, seeing those pictures, what did you do? You put that lying on the stand.
You brought me in. You put me there. You made her lie.
I don't do that, Kevin. That day on the subway, what did I say to you? What were my words to you? Maybe it was your time to lose. You didn't think so.
Lose? I don't lose! I win! I win! I'm a lawyer! That's my job
That's what I do!
I rest my case.
It's a nice one, kid.
Had to close out someday.
Nobody wins them all.
What are you doing, baby? You okay?
I am now.
All rise. The Honorable Judge Dawson Dees preside. Please be seated.
You're still under oath, young lady. You're a witness, Mr. Lomax. Mr. Lomax?
Your Honor, I'm terribly sorry, but I can no longer represent my client. I need to be replaced as counsel.
Order. 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 I join this court. Mr. Lomax, this is outrageous. Are you aware of the consequences of this action?
I am, sir.
I want to see both attorneys in my chambers immediately. I'm going to adjourn this trial until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
I trusted you to defend me and you swore you would, Lomax. You'll burn for this.
You just made the biggest mistake of your life.
Baby, what are you doing?
The right thing. I think the right thing.
Oh, here they are.
Are you gonna be disbarred?
I don't know.
Hey,
Kevin, how's it feel
to lose your first tag?
No comment.
Hey, come on, ain't fair to talk to them all at once. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, press conference, right? Here, he ain't gonna talk to you now. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Neil?
That's it. That's it.
This story, this is the one, pal. This is the one you dream
There
about.
is no story.
A lawyer with a crisis of conscience? You gotta be kidding. It's huge.
They're gonna disbar me, Larry. Right about that.
Wait a second. Can they do that?
Not when I get through with the story. We gotta talk, Kevin. You gotta give me an exclusive. This is wire service. This is 60 minutes. This is a story that needs to be told. It's you. You're a star.
Call me in the morning.
You got it. First thing.
Bye, Larry.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
Every time, I haven't watched that movie in years, but every time I do, it hits different. But unlike this season, it hit for real because it said to me, when I'm down or when I'm up, I have to watch out on both sides for this ego thing because it's always looking for a way in to get me back to a space that I fought so hard to get out of. And so I wanted to set the tone, excuse me, with those two videos. And now what I want to do is I want to give you guys an opportunity from that tone that was just set and from whatever space you're in, reading this book. Even if you haven't finished the book, guess what? It is okay. I'm glad you're in the room. Um, because I'm thankful that we can grow in this space together. So what I want to do is it's a few people in here. I want to give everybody a chance to at least talk. And before I start calling on you guys for me to hear what you have to say, I want to make sure that you at least have the opportunity to say something to somebody. So Joe and I am going to do the breakout rooms. And so basically, guys, I'm just going to break you guys up into little groups, and I want you guys to participate. Please talk to each other. And this is what I want you guys to focus on. This is the question. This is the question I want you guys to discuss. What was or is the most impactful moment / statement or insight for you from this book? What was or is the most impactful moment, statement, or insight for you from this book? There it is right there on the screen. So I'm going to break you guys up into small groups. I'm only going to do it for about 5-6 minutes. And I want you guys to talk, and then we're going to come back, and then I'm going to let you guys talk to me. And then we're just going to go ahead and discuss this. And I got a couple other things that I want to share with you, and that's going to be that. That was Miss Emily. Miss Emily, unmute your mic. Open up your video, wherever you are. Can you share? Okay, you don't want your video. Okay, it might be a Saturday hair day. I understand. But can you share what you said when you first started about what you got?
I said, when I first started listening to the word ego, I guess that came from previous conversations when I was younger, when I just, it was always referred to a man. So I said, well, I don't, it doesn't, that doesn't, that's not a part of me, right? Because men, the only one have the egos. But when I was reading this book, I saw the examples and some quotations, and I was like, oh, I do. Although we've had lessons on ego before, but I didn't get that during that time. But that's what I got. That's what I got.
And that's what I heard, because I mean you cleaned it up that time, so I
Thank you.
when I snuck in, y'all, I'm just gonna say, hey, look, she said I ain't think I had an ego, because last time I checked, ego was just for men. like the soap just for men. Right. It's like, man, I've never heard that. I appreciate you sharing that. Hey, can I hear from a few more people, and let's just talk in this space real quick, and then I'll do what I came to do. Can I get anybody, male, female? I want to hear that. Bless me. You don't understand how that just blessed me. Somebody else.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what Miss Emily said, because I sort of thought that as well.
Who's that?
Karen.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry. Karen Simmons? Simon?
Yeah, yes. Gotcha. I kind of wanted to piggyback off what Miss Emily said, because I sort of thought that as well, how big a man ego was and stuff like that. So in reading the book, well, as I got older, like she said, and you're younger, you use your 20s and 30s. I'm in my 50s now. You would think more so of that. Then as you got older and certain character flaws, you realize, oh, you know what? Yeah, I do have an ego. But I did want to point out the unconscious and the consciousness was very powerful to me. Realizing when people was doing stuff unconsciously, just kind of walking through that with them. And like Jill said, having a conversation more so knowing that their behavior is in their unconscious state of mind versus being conscious.
Amen. I appreciate you sharing. Thank you for sharing.
I was going to say, as a man, I kind of, I've seen women with egos before. They just didn't know it was ego. I know that ego has driven everything that I've done, and being competitive and striving and trying to be the best. It has been the guide, really. And it can be very destructive as well. I was talking about a little bit about the pain body. I didn't realize I have it. I didn't know that concept, but it is me and my son. We were bumping heads. He had come back home temporarily, and his ego was up against my ego, and my ego was going to win at all costs. And it was. I actually turned him onto the book, and he read the book as well a couple of times. And I think we've come to a good conclusion and have kind of put that in check as much as the ego can be in check.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Good stuff. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing.
Hey, Will, it's Cabby.
Hey, Kay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, at one point I didn't share in the last group, I was just thinking about, which hit hard for me too,
okay.
was about suffering is your teacher, can be a teacher to you. It's one of the quickest ways that you can get back to present. So what it caused me to do was to go back and look at my life, and whereas I had a woe is me and God, why is this happening? I could find greater lessons in the midst of what I went through, as opposed to bringing it forward as a story that I lived in. It could become a testimony, which was kind of difficult for me because, you know, I had put God in this box, you know, why does God let such and such happen to me? But that's not how it works. The universe works in such a way that suffering, however God's going to do it, he's going to bring you the presence. And so that was his tool for me. And it was a blessing to me to read that particular element of the book. It helped me a whole lot as well.
Okay. Amen. Thank you for
Jill,
sharing.
did you want to say something?
I do. This is what I'm going to. So definitely the conscious unconscious part is what I talked about when I was in the room with the group, and that is it helped me a lot because it helped me, as someone just said it, so I don't have to repeat it, not to judge. I didn't know. It helped me live. It moved me towards unconditional. It moved me towards a kind of love that I could not have as long as I said what Will did to me. He knew what he was doing. He knew from every part of his being. Well, if I say that, then I cannot. Saying that is one thing, but saying that people are unconscious, that's a way to love a person. And it helped me to see better when I would say to go deeper into people growing in your space. See, I would say we got to grow in each other's space, but that was with trepidation. we're that was loud and noisy. We're now growing in each other's space is peaceful.
That part, yep.
It's peaceful. I could really receive it. At first, I was just receiving it because out of obligation, I have to, because I think this is what really God wants. God said, no, until you want it, you're not going to, until you want it, you're not going to fully surrender and hear all God's great love for everyone. Everyone. The other thing I want to say, and someone sent me a whole bunch of questions about this book by email last night at 11 p.m. And the only reason I didn't send it to you, and it's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And I didn't send it because I did not want to change where you were. And it wasn't bad stuff. It was good stuff. And one of the things that one of the questions, statements out of plenty of them that I think is worth saying here, because maybe there's some other people who don't get something. But one of the things, because it's just all about ego. Do you think, ask me what I think, and it was curiosity. They said, this is my curiosity. Do you think that it was the presence of ego that caused Adam and Eve to decide to sin? So what's that showing me is somewhere along the line, someone doesn't really get this. And granted, this person said they didn't finish the book. I didn't, that wasn't important to me to know. But I'll say this, because what triggered me to say this was what Carl said. When Carl, I think it was Carl, whoever said, I use my ego and it drove me, it was used for this, but it is survival. I mean, once you get what ego is, then a lot of things that make sense. But if you don't get what ego is, then you're probably still being led by your ego in your search for what ego is. Until then, your ego, you know. And so these are some of the things that I've learned. But my point to the person was, do you think that it was the presence of the ego that caused them to decide to sin? So now you're talking about decisions. No, Adam and Eve have choices just like we do. Just like we do. We have choices. And the ego way is a choice. It's a way. It's the way we used to do things versus the way I'm choosing to do them now. It was a way, just like this is a way. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I said more than that, but because I don't want to change the flow of this, I'm not going to say any more than that. But I just think that we'll sometimes in these questions, that I'm sure you can hear it too, that ego is still driving a little bit.
It is. I was going to overlook some of it for now, just because I am. Yes, I do hear it. I do agree, and even in that, my ego wants to respond to that, but I'm not going to. So, but that part right there. All right. So you got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Let me get a couple more. Anybody?
Was the question just to share something that we shared in the breakout room?
No. What the question is basically, what was the most impactful moment? What's the most impactful moment, statement, or what's happened insight for you? What's most impactful for you? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so for me, a lot of it was the attachment, like what I shared in the small group, realizing how being attached to an item, a person, a moment in my life, how that would transcend in the present moment that I'm in, and how that even affects mental health as far as hoarding or anything, holding on to something like that. The other piece for me was the conscious and unconscious. And it's like Mother Emily said, I don't believe I ever thought that women had egos. I thought it was a man thing. I thought, if we flowed in something that was a lower consciousness, it was the Jezebel spirit or something like that. But, I didn't really think that women had egos. But clearly, I can see how I could be sitting somewhere and stay in peace, serenity, and then a thought comes into my mind, and now I know how to challenge that thought. As it's always been said, the quality of your life is directly affected by the quality of questions you ask. So now I'm able to ask myself questions, and to me, that shows a detachment between what I thought was me and what I now can clearly identify as ego. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Let me get one more. This is good stuff to me. Y'all helping me out. I thank you for it. Can I get one more? Anybody, male, female?
I got one more thing, Will.
Who's that?
Cabby.
Go ahead, Cabs.
One of the things I read, I don't know if it's in the book or it's in the book, some cards here. He made some cards, but he said that unless you understand the roots or mechanisms of the ego, it'll keep regenerating itself. So what I found out for myself is if I'm always trying to make something happen, if I'm always trying to solve something, if I'm always trying to protect myself, these are things that it just puts on a different hat and it comes right back and would trick me up again. So right now, I'm sitting and being quiet and watching my thoughts and praying, looking for those do-overs, those things that just keep reformulating, but it just looked a little different, but it's the same essence in the end.
Got you.
Okay, so Will, can I just say this? Because she brought something back to mind that I wanted to say in the break room, and I told them it slipped my mind. That was it, Cabby. One of my impactful moments, and it was that I practice so much. It is ego. I have to ask my question when I'm myself. Is ego am I trying to repair? Is it trying to repair itself? Is it trying to restore? Am I in ego repair or ego recovery or ego restore? That was the thing that helped me cross over somewhere. Identify when that part of me and what I can call an old nature and some old thoughts and some old ways was leading, and the protection piece and all that stuff the Cat was just talking about. That would really help me in my relationships first. And that is, Jill, are you right now, whatever your response / reaction is this God?
Right.
Or is this ego? And then all I had to do is first say is what is it? And then I could feel the protection. I could feel ego trying to restore itself. I can feel myself feeling like I shifted lower and just trying to come up to a place where I felt safe and maybe important or special and all those ego words. So that's it. Thank you, Cabby, for sharing, because you triggered that for me.
Thank you for sharing, Jill. Thank you for sharing, Cabby. Hey, Joe and Marlene, play my I have on the note with everybody sharing. I wanted to share what Joy shared with me one day when we were just sitting around talking about this particular book, because it took a minute for us to get to that place of sharing, and this is one of the reasons why. So not Cabby, I'm sorry. Marlene, can you bring that up and share that video with real quick? So I'm here with my beautiful wife. For those of you who don't know, this is Miss Joy. I brought her on because we were having a conversation a few weeks back and she said some things that were really prevalent and good that I thought would be beneficial to others to hear. And so I invited her here to just share that that piece of the conversation. Do you remember the conversation we was having that time?
About how I started noticing.
Right. So yeah, so if you just real quick, just share in your own words what we were talking about that day.
So I was sharing with him a few weeks back that how as he started to read the book, because he started to read the book before I did, that how I started noticing some changes. I started noticing that he wasn't giving the same energy to certain conversations. He wasn't engaging in certain conversations. And what I had said to you is that it just felt like that he had tapped in to some level of peace, right, that I hadn't had. And at one point I sort of, stomped around and was a little upset because, feeling like, hey, I'm losing my friend. And then the more I started to just step back and observe him, I started to, ask myself internally and ask God, like, well, hold up, I want this, right? He just seemed very just unbothered, he didn't seem to take the bait on certain things. And that actually is what prompted me when I saw and felt this piece. It just prompted me to read the book and want to read the book because I wanted this same level of understanding. I felt like, like, hold up, where are you? I want to feel like this too, I want to do this.
So when you say take the bait, what do you mean by take the bait?
I'm talking about like certain conversations that we would have, and we would have a lot of opinions about it, right? Whether it be, something in the news, somebody we knew, and so where before, we could kind of go back and forth. Do you know what I'm saying? We laugh and we joke. But like this time, you just shut it down. Like, not in a way like you didn't like say you shut it down. You just didn't entertain it, right? Like if I would say something, you just would go, and that would be that, and it was just like with just, nothing. You wouldn't egg it on. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't pour into, that.
Right. And I think I remember you saying something about one of the reasons why you wanted to get into the book as well, because a part of you felt envious, actually.
Yes, I did, because I felt like, what I felt from you, what I'm saying, was just this calmness, was this like, this unbotheredness, the most I can just say is just this peace. I mean, when you just feel that the person's spirit around you, it's just different, and then I was like, I didn't want to be over here by myself, what I'm saying? I'm the unpeaceful person, in the house, and that made me want to tap into like, what are you learning? What are you taking, in? And so that made me really just curious, I'm saying, curious about, what is this book saying, you know, that I'm seeing and experiencing this change, you know, in you.
And so give me one thing, since she has started reading the book now. Actually, she's about to be finished as far as I know.
Yeah.
So just give me one thing that has benefited you so far from tapping into the spirit of what's happening for yourself.
Just understanding the role of the ego and how it is or has been entrenched, you know, in my life.
Explain that. Explain the role of the ego. What you mean by that? Make it plainer.
So let me back up. I have traditionally been a thinker. I think a lot. My mind goes. It's not settled. I could have, you know, it's another voice inside of my head, or there has been, that, you know, would talk to me. You know what I'm saying? And whether it would, you know, egg me on in my opinions, whether it would egg me on in my insecurities, you know, whether it would, you know, just there, right? You know, nothing could be happening, but internally the voice is convincing me that something is happening. And so in reading the book, I guess I didn't, you know, I hadn't realized just how deep that went. And I think I, you know, had shared with you recently that we had got to a point where the book talked about the pain body. And I was in here crying, you know, when I realized that the pain, right, all the pain that I've stored up, trauma and everything, this, how much that was attached to my ego, and that it kept me in the place. So if you imagine this voice in your head constantly, you know, telling you or getting you to stay stuck in one place. And when I realized, I guess, you know, just when I just realized how stuck I had actually been for years, I just, you know, I broke down, but not broke down, and it's like in a sadness. It finally felt that it was like breaking, that attachment, that whole was breaking to like my past, you know. And so I would say for me, that was probably the biggest kind of like, you know, aha moment. And then like, you know, as we've been going through, as I'm, you know, reading it and then about to finish it, just seeing, you know, how my mind is still, it's calm, it's at peace, right? I, you know, if I feel and it can hear, right, like it's like, and there's this inward voice that stops me now from going any further, you know. So like if something is happening, right, I think I was telling him the other day, you know, just being in the car and you, let's say you're riding behind like a slow person, right, a slower person, but how just in that, just that quick in that moment, you have opinions about this slow car and this person, and it was just a stop, don't go there. And just more of a stillness and calmness, you know, of my mind, like being just okay, being okay in the quietness of the house in my mind.
That works. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So the main reason why, and I thank you all again for sharing. And I'm thankful and I'm praying that what we all get from this towards the end, or, you know, as we're moving along together, is because there's one thing when we read a book by ourselves and then we're trying to understand the content of what's going in, you know, according to where we are in our own space. And that's why I think platforms like this, you know, coming together and hearing what other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing is so valuable, because I believe questions are being answered for others. You know, you all are blessing me, and I pray that what you all are getting from other people as you hear them talk, you know, is that same understanding where we enter into this space where you can be reading and reading and reading and think you're understanding something, and it's really just going over your head. Because I know, being a part of this ministry that reads books, up until this point, I've read a lot of books with this ministry, but it wasn't in the spirit of what I was supposed to be reading it in, if that makes sense. Meaning, just because the church is doing this, I'm going to do it too. And pray, but it's a half apple prayer that God will meet me somewhere in the middle of, reading this book, whatever that book may be in that season. And so the difference is for this season, for me, with this particular book, and I wasn't even looking for it, but I think Joy said it, when something breaks, something in me broke. Something in me broke, and something just, it just made sense, where it's just like, you get to a point, you ever been dealing with somebody where you get to the point where you done with them, or you done with her, and now they gotta go, and there's nothing they can say to convince you otherwise, that give me one more week to get myself together, give me one more day, baby, give me one more chance, one more opportunity. There comes a point when you're dealing with people that you realize they are exactly who they say they and have been in your face. And that change, and if they do change, is not going to change in my space. And so in order for that change to happen, I got to get y'all out of my space first. We got to break up. We have to break up. So when I hear the word breaking, I'm thinking break up. I had to break up with myself. And I believe that's what this book has done, is I quit you. Anybody ever quit somebody? I quit you. I'm quitting you. We don't go together no more. We can't go together no more. We don't get along. All we do when we get together is we just argue back and forth. And you know what? That's what this book did. It opened up that space to realize I argue back and forth with myself almost every day. And when I say I'm tired, that's what I'm saying. I'm not arguing with you no more. I'm not arguing with you no more. Somebody got to move out, and it ain't gonna be me, because I'm still here. And so I thank you all for sharing. And that brings me into this space where I only have like 5 slides that I want to share with you guys. And I just want to give you some of the highlights for me. And I pray that it lands in your space as well. These are some of the highlights from the book that hit for me, that pulled me into a space. Because the ultimate goal here, I believe, and maybe it's different for everyone, but here's what I'm experiencing. Here's what I'm experiencing. The ultimate goal is the death of my ego increases the peace of my life. I just become more peaceful. I did not ask Joy to say, I did not coach her into what to say. Because see, the other part of this is that, like what Carl was saying, things change. And then here's a reality that happens, especially when we get in front of people. When you get in front of people, whether you realize it or not, especially when either I or Jill asked you a question in front of everybody else, your ego jumped in front first. Your ego jumped in front first, and it wanted to form your response in the way that made you feel good about how you're talking, as opposed to being like, you know what, however it came out, it's going to come out. Look, this is me in this moment. This is who I'm going to be. This is how it looks. This is how it smells. This is what it sounds like. Look, I'm not even trying no more. And what happens is that if this book brings us into that spiritual space where we're supposed to start seeing that happen, so that we can, like Joy said when she was driving, and slow drivers instantly jog an opinion in your own mind, where you just got to like, stop. I'm going to stop. Let me break that right now and jump into this space where it's just like, you know what? My ego was about to talk. Let me go ahead and shut up and wait for a proper answer from God, or whatever, however it's going to come out. I hope that made sense. So here's what I want to do. Bring up my first slide, Joanne. I only got like 5, y'all. Let me see. Let me move this out the way. My first slide is, so The name of this book was Awakening to Your Life Purpose. And so this is what the note that I wrote down for that. It says, awakening to your life's purpose suggests that I am currently asleep to my life purpose. Excuse me. Which leads me to ask the question, what dreams, that's supposed to be dreams, or continuous nightmares do I keep reliving in my mind? That's where I'm thankful for right here, guys, because this is what this book did for me. See, the name of the book is Awakening to Your Life's Purpose, but what this book did for me first is it got me to ask the question, hold up, if I need to wake up, that means I'm asleep somewhere. That means somewhere in my mind, I'm asleep. Somewhere I'm more intelligent to myself than I actually am. Somewhere I'm more than I actually should be. And so I need to wake up. And for me, and I pray, and from what I'm hearing from all of you guys, and again, you know, it amazes me. You can take it down. It amazed me to hear, you know, from two of you all that the thinking was that ego was just for men. And then what was funny, and I'm not picking or anything, but what was funny is that subtly but surely, when the men got to talk, they had to let that side of the female ego know that, nah, we been knew that. And so because we been knew that, I'm mad that y'all just learning it. Did y'all follow me? Y'all hear that? Did y'all see what that happened? And I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to call anybody out individually, but I'm saying that's how the ego works. See, somebody's getting free by saying one thing and then right on the other side of it, that ego slides in and you don't even realize that it slid in. And now we're talking from the ego space first, and then we transition into spirit. That's how slick it is. It goes back to that video that we watched with the Devil's Advocate, where, you know, when he hugged his wife at the end, and she was like, "What are you doing, baby?" He was like, "I'm doing the right thing. I think I'm doing the right thing." But as soon as he walked away, feeling like he was doing the right thing, there that ego was waiting right there. And it wasn't even just, see, that movie is about Devil's Advocate. And what's funny to me, it's like, I said this to Joy recently, but the devil don't even have to work hard. He already set up the system. The systems are already set up. It's, you know, what makes that movie so brilliant is that the system's already set up, and all we got to do is decide to play the game. And we just keep picking up the controller and playing the game. He ain't making nobody do nothing. And we know this. But it's easier, like if you remember the scene where he was arguing back and forth right before, you know, he spoke the truth out of his own mouth. I don't lose. I'm a lawyer. I win. That's what I do, you know. Where he was like, I rest my case. See, what the ego does is that it puts just enough truth in your space to make you feel like you're walking in that good space. And that's what broke for me on this. That's what broke for me on this book, where it's just like, you know what? You know, because especially if you're a person that carries around and is responsible for speaking truth to other people, you know, in love, you can feel some kind of way about yourself, you know, and it just goes to a space, you know. So let's go to my second slide, because I just want to get to where I really want to get to. And I'm gonna get y'all out of here after I hear one more thing from you. My next slide. There we go. So it says we can learn not. This is from the book. I can't remember what chapter. It's just from the book. We can learn not to keep situations or events alive in our minds, but to return our attention continuously to the pristine, timeless present moment, rather than be caught up in mental movie making. Our very presence then becomes our identity rather than our thoughts and emotions. See, don't look at the other one yet, but the mental movie making part smacked me in the face, because we all got movies that we keep playing out in our head and we keep talking about it. And those movies are from things from the past or what we think is going to happen in the future. And so what this book does is, if you notice on that picture, there's an empty space on that present moment. And so what this book's goal, one of the other goals it did for me, and that it, you know, brought us into the space, was that, you know, the present moment needs to become our identity. Take it down just for a minute. You know, that's the big truth that I got. The present moment has to become my identity, not how hard I studied and who I became financially or educationally or anything. No, no. See, not my accomplishments, not my failures, not my not my children, not my wife, not how big my house is, not none of that stuff. That's all stuff that's already happened. Nor who I'm going to be, how much money I'm going to get, where I'm going in life, who I'm meeting in life, you know, what circle I get to walk in, and, you know, none of that, what my children will become. You know, when my mind goes there or there, then I'm living in a reality that hasn't even happened, or I'm living in a reality that's already happened. And when I'm doing that, I'm never right here with you guys right here, right now. And the ego does it in such a slick way, though. It does it in such a slick way where it's just like, you know, when you're unconscious, let's say when I'm dreaming, like when I'm dreaming, dreams are random thoughts from your unconscious mind. We can't control what pops in there. And so what I have to do, or what I'm in the new practice of when I wake up, I have to center myself and be like, okay, where am I? Right now, I'm in bed. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Wife is asleep right here. Okay, it's dark. Real but not true. I was just having dreams. It is what it is. I gotta let that go. Keep going. I got to learn to see. I have to find identity. See, right now, my identity, my purpose. See, the book says it's talking about finding the purpose in life. The purpose for all of us, our purpose is whatever is happening right now. Right now, whatever's happening right now. So if you're listening to my voice or we're listening to each other talk, that's our purpose in life for this moment right now. When we finish with this, then our purpose changes. But when we attach a goal and make that our purpose, then we live in the future. Or if we make our purpose overcoming, as the book uses, the pain bodies, the stuff that caused us pain from the past, and our purpose is to just overcome that stuff and to stop thinking about it and stop letting it affect me so much. You know, that's not living in this present space. Bring that same slide back up, and I just want to hit the bottom part because it goes into right what I just said. It says, only presence can free you from the ego. Only this moment right here, staying mentally, spiritually in this moment right here, can free you from the ego. And you can only be present now, not yesterday or tomorrow. Only presence can undo the past in you and thus transform your state of consciousness. Only living in this right here, right now moment can undo the past. That for me was profound. That for me was profound. You can take it down. And then it hit me with I found this other video. It's a very short video that I'm gonna play for you right now. But basically I asked with this truth all up in my face, you know, and the ego trying not to die, because I don't know if y'all read this part yet, but we do realize that the ego not gonna give up without a fight. He gonna fight us. He gonna fight us. They're not gonna die easy. And so I had to ask the question, you know, I was asking the question of myself and of the spirit once, like, why am I even in this space? How to even get here? You know, outside of being grown and all that other stuff. And so this is one video that helps with some of that. Play that short clip of the white man, that white man.
It takes a while sometimes to change your habits. The brain is lazy. It just wants to do what you've allowed it to do. So I recommend, this is actually part of Secret 7, live each day based on clearly defined values, purpose, and goals. And hedonism, so giving in to every craving I have, is the enemy of happiness because it ends up wearing out your dopamine or pleasure centers in your brain. And I always talk about you want to drip dopamine. don't dump it. Because when you dump it with the fries and the alcohol, the porn, you don't have much left. And so then you have to go back and do it again. And all of a sudden, chemicals are controlling you rather than you are controlling you.
Chemicals are controlling you rather than you are controlling you. Chemicals in my brain are controlling me rather than me controlling me. And the way I heard that through, this Eckhart Tolle book is the chemicals of the ego are controlling me more than I'm controlling myself. And then if I add the guilt trips of scripture reading, of be self-controlled on top of all that, then I'm just in a space. I'm just in a space. Somebody tell me what you're hearing so far. Somebody, anybody. Yeah, I want you to tell. It's okay.
Okay. So here are my notes. Will, this is Jill.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just from what you just said about chemicals controlling. So what I got, and only because this is some other place I live, I wrote it in the Good Grief book. And just so that when you hear chemicals, here's substitutes for what's organic. That way you won't, and that helped me, because then, the ego or that other self that doesn't want to die will help you take the out to say, well, I don't do drugs. I'm not an alcoholic. But these chemicals, that's the word that the guy used, but see them as substitutes from what should organically take place. And so now you are like drugs, you are addicted to substitute for happiness, drugs. The substitute for peace, drugs or alcohol. So now you can go into all of those other things, and then you can, from this would trigger this will, is then you can maybe recognize some of the slickness of the ego. Right. Because a substitute can make you feel like the real thing. Drugs can make you feel happy. Porn can make you feel better than you felt at first. Some other things that are not that much taboo. Okay, let me say this. Envying, arguing. I think I got that from Joy's piece, right? It just what she's saying is, Will, you weren't triggered. You wasn't egging something on. See, all of those things was the ego in action, keeping itself alive until it had to die.
Right.
And that it seems that it died because you didn't give it more fuel to live on. Making it stronger. So the chemicals, the controlling, the substitution to me was great. And of course, what you said was only the presence can undo the past for you. Absolutely. Only being present. The presence, but actually not just the presence. Because if I'm not present in the presence, it's not going to undo the past the way that says. So that was profound to me too. That's it for me. Great stuff.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to add to any of that?
I do, Will. I would just like to add exactly what Jill was saying and then what Joy shared.
Who's that?
Hearing the voices, the random thoughts, the triggers, and then identifying that at the end of the day, I'm not being, like Jill just said, present in the presence, because I'm focused on something from there. And where it shows up most for me right now is that when I can see it in someone else's space and I can see the detachment, like you say, when you're not cleaning up the ego, but you recognize that in that moment, then it's just so like a blank canvas. It's just so very transparent at that moment. So for me, it's that whole, does it line up with what I need to be focused on, what I need to be present on, and what I should be doing right there? Because being a thinker, like Joy said, it'll come over to me like a random trigger, and I'll stop whatever it is I might be doing or already thinking about, and then follow that thought process all the way down, and then I'm distracted and off course. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you for sharing. Somebody else was trying to share something as well.
Hey, Will, this is Gail. Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
I really appreciate what Jill just said about chemicals, because my brain wanted to think chemicals and chemicals in the true sense of the definition. But I like that she was saying substitute, anything that substitute. So it's not just the chemical, it's whether I got whatever I'm thinking about doing other than what I ought to be doing in the very moment, in the very present moment. So it's not that it's a chemical thing, because I'm thinking, well, I don't do chemicals, I don't do alcohol, I don't smoke. So what else there? Well, there's other things that takes the place of that, the substitute that. So I appreciate for breaking that down. That helped me clear my mind, because it's been a fighting this ego. Every turn, the ego is right there. I didn't know it was so prevalent, so proud and so loud and so big. So I'm having to stop myself a lot throughout the day, challenging my ego almost about a minute. So that's helping me out a lot.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I heard a brother once had something to share.
Yes. The biggest thing I got from this book, and a phrase just came to me, it's my business is to say yes to the isness of life. The isness of life is reality. Whatever is happening in your life, God's will. In that, you're supposed to accept the good and accept the bad. The ego says no to reality. So when you were talking about will, you just let me go, and that's one of the things that I picked up from this book, is that whatever is going on, you have to accept it for what it is. A lot of times we say it is what it is, but we don't really mean that, because we still saying no in our mind, and we're arguing in our mind with that person. When you talk about being present, you have to accept what is, accepting, being content with the good as well as the bad. The thing that kills the ego is saying yes, and yet saying yes to the isness of life is surrender, and that's what dissolves the ego. So that's what I saw in your example, and that's what I've been picking up, because I haven't been as argumentative with my wife because of this book. So reality is you say yes to whatever is going on, because that's God's will. And the part of you inside of you that's saying no, that's your ego. So you got to recognize the no.
Correct. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's bring it back real quick. So a couple things, because that transitions well into my next slide. Don't bring it up yet. But let me say this, as far as being right here in reality, like he just said, being present. This moment right here, right now, if you're doing this book, and this book is really like in your space, and you're praying through this, if you're somebody like me, and I'm saying somebody like me, meaning I can talk a lot. I can talk a lot. Sometimes about absolutely nothing. If you're like me, somebody that you know that can talk a lot, and you're still talking, keep reading. Because the one reality that has hit me hard, and the reason why, even if I go back to that video that I did with Joy, the reason why this house that I live in changed is because I shut up. Because once I realized that I could not decipher the difference between my spirit talking or my ego talking, because they were too close and I spent too much time with both of them, so they sound too similar to each other. Once I realized that I could not clearly differentiate the difference between the two, I had to shut up. I had to shut up. Because the ego feels more comfortable just speaking words. The ego just feels at peace, at home within you, within me, not. It's like if there's a conversation that I shouldn't even be a part of right now, and I should just be listening to the conversation, my ego says I'm going to just jump into the conversation to add to it, just to feel like I'm a part, or to tell myself, or to feel as if, just in case people don't think this about me or that about me. The ego just starts telling you to do this little dance. But what I've noticed for myself personally is just like I had to shut it all down. I had to shut all the way up. All the way up. And while I was shut up, doing whatever I had to do to live my life, then I start mopping floors. Then I start washing toilets. Then I start cooking food. Then I start washing dishes. And in that space of silence and just doing and being, in that space of just being, that's where God started to be able to separate, and I was able to start to see ego from spirit. And it's in that time and space where it's just like, here's my challenge to all of us. If you're a talker and you're still talking, my challenge to you is it the ego, or is it time to be quiet? That's what I got from this. And that's why the energy of the house, that's why when Joyce said, so Joyce cleaned it up real nice in the video. But what she basically told me is that there were times that she would just start to try to start something. You want to get started something. She want to get started something. And the difference this time is that I wasn't able to recognize it, because not that I was above it, but because the Spirit of God was above it. If you're trying to start something with somebody that's just not flowing on that frequency, it's not going to hit you. Because if I'm trying to walk in the reality, in the spirit reality of what's happening with, the death of ego, you got to die. And I see ego punching at the door trying to get at me, I have nothing to give you. I have nothing to give you. And so that's living in the reality of what's happening, looks and feels and sounds like something. And this is one way that it came to me. Bring up my next slide. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to skip the next one and then jump to that last one. And so this is, y'all have heard of DEFCON levels before, right? This is a military response. This is military response levels. And so I was sitting there studying military response levels and stuff, and so if you look at this chart, DEFCON 5 is basically where we all live right now. That's where, if you look at the gray, DEFCON 5 is all the way over to the right. You look at the gray, it says right here, everything is normal. This is our lowest state. This is where we live. Right now, as a country, this is where we live. And so I want you guys to try to look at this from the spiritual ego aspect as well, and say, God wants me to respond from this space right here, from DEFCON 5. I know DEFCON 5 sounds like this is not a good space to be in, but no, DEFCON 5 is the lowest. It's the lowest state. And if you go back, if you look at DEFCON 4, it says, just ignore the blue, because those are just the exercises that go into what makes the DEFCON higher. It says above normal. Intel watch, increased security measures, strengthened. At DEFCON 4, I'm watching more. My intel is going to increase, and I'm increasing security measures, and I'm making them stronger. When I get to DEFCON 3, I'm at maximum Air Force. I need the Air Force to be 15 minutes away from mobilization. At DEFCON 3, I need the Air Force to be ready to fly in and get the party started for me. Because in 15 minutes, its force readiness is increased above normal levels. DEFCON 2, I need the Army, armed forces. I need them, the ground troops, 6 hours or less to deploy or engage because we are near nuclear war. And then if you looked at DEFCON 1, that is maximum readiness. Nuclear war is imminent. Maximum readiness. That means I am ready to go at any given moment. So let's look at this in the ego real quick. The Spirit of God is trying to get me to shut my ego down and to live in the basically DEFCON 5, the normal state. But as I'm living in the normal state, what I had to realize about reading this book is that I am having DEFCON 1 responses to every single situation or thought that comes in my pathway. I jump from being normal, living in a normal space, but if you say something I don't like, you do something I don't like, I feel something I don't like, I have a thought from the past or the future that I don't like, as opposed to dealing with it in spirit, my ego jumps in and makes every single thing a DEFCON 1 situation, where basically it's nuclear war is imminent every single time. Does that make sense to y'all? It's okay to say so. I know you're there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody should listen to this. And so I'm making everything a big deal. And so if you look at the cartoon stuff on the side, that's me in the middle. I'm playing above the button. At the top, it says, don't push the red button, because the red button, you know, every president gets that magical box where if they open that box and turn the key and they push the red button, nuclear war has caught out in the real world. And so if you look at the bottom, that picture, that's a brain. It says, push the button. That's my ego constantly talking. It's punching upwards. Push the button. This book brought me into the consciousness of the ego constantly telling me everywhere I go, push the button. Push the button. Take it down for a second. Push the button. Being in the present, I already let go of the past and the future. So I'm only dealing with what's right here in my space right now. And if I'm looking at somebody that dropped the glass on the floor, and I don't remember all the other dishes that you broke when I told you to wash dishes. If I don't think about any of the dishes you already broke, and I'm just dealing with the glass you just broke right here on the floor, then I'm not going to have a heavy duty response to the glass you just dropped. I may even just help you clean it up. But if I remember all the other times you keep breaking dishes, it's going to be nuclear war in this kitchen. And what we do, what I noticed that I have done consistently, which is why I had to shut the heaven up, is I kept jumping, maybe not DEFCON 1, but I was at least at 2 or 3 when it wasn't appropriate. I got any witnesses? 2 or 3, DEFCON 2, DEFCON 3s, when it wasn't appropriate. And that's what the ego does. That's what it does, because the ego wants to keep me in a stressed out position. Because the longer I'm stressed out, then I can't grow. There's no peace for me in that space. Go to slide 5, and then I'm gonna wrap this up with one more discussion with you guys. I just want to hear from you at the end. So these are just a couple things that I got. Not that one. Go to the next one. I'm gonna skip that one. Yeah, go to that one. There are 3 ways in which the ego will treat the present moment. And the reason why I'm bringing this to you guys, this is what just hit me the most, because being in the presence helps the ego die. That's one of the main truths I got from this. Stay present. That's where death of ego is. There are 3 ways in which the ego will treat the present moment: as a means to an end, as an obstacle, or as an enemy. That's the ego. If you got stuff happening in your life, like I know you do, we all got stuff happening in our life. Our ego will treat what's happening in our present moment as a means to an end, an obstacle, or an enemy. when you react against the form that life takes at this moment. What that means is that right now, whatever's in your space, that is the form that life has chosen for you right here, right now. We all in this Zoom meeting room together. This is the form of life that life has chosen for us in this moment in time right now. And not only did life choose it, we chose to be here. And so this is the form that life takes at this moment. When you treat the now as a means, an obstacle, or an enemy, you strengthen your own form identity, the ego. Hence, the ego's reactivity. What is reactivity? Becoming addicted to reaction. The more reactive you are, the more entangled you become with form. The more identified with form, the stronger the ego. Your being then does not shine through form anymore, only barely. So keep it up for just a second, because I want y'all to just glance at this picture for a second. So before this book, I'm the guy at the bottom. I'm the guy at the bottom observing every piece of the puzzle and trying to make it fit where I think it's supposed to fit. Trying to figure every move out before it's trying to move out. But now I'm the guy at the top. My brain, my spirit, I cannot even right now, when I say I gotta shut up and be quiet, y'all, I cannot participate in certain conversations anymore. When the conversations change to a space that just don't, that I know the ego is present, or is that's plucking at my ego, my what it feels like in my head right now is this is that picture. That's the best way I can say it. That picture at the top. There's a sense of my face there, but it's just cloudy. I just cannot comprehend it. I just can't comprehend it. You can take it down. And the point is here, guys, that I hope, and I'm gonna let you guys talk in a minute after I show you this last thing. You know, one of the points here is that I prayed to be here. I prayed to not have to keep fighting myself. And so now that it's happening, I'm now learning to enter into this space where I'm no longer reacting, responding, or just talking. I'm just being. I'm just living. And whatever the spirit does, he does. Whatever life brings around, it just brings around. I just have to realize that I don't have to respond or react to everything that comes in my space. I don't have, see, we're addicted. Once I realized I was addicted to giving my opinion to everything, just so that I can hear myself talk. Once I realized I was addicted to my opinion because I hold my personal opinion in such high regard, that I got to comment on everything. That's, you know, that's, I know I go on social media, you know, when I say go on social media, meaning I come against this, you know, often when I speak. It's because that's just all that space is. It's a space generated and created for all our egos to shine. It's a space that encourages our every single thought and opinion, when most of our thoughts and opinions need to be thrown in the trash. And living in that space, thank God to this book, you know, just getting me there. I don't live there anymore. Now I just want to be whatever the present moment is. Here's my last slide. I'm gonna play this short video, and then I want to hear from you guys for the final time before we get out of here. So let's bring up my last slide, which is, yep, that one. It says, being at one with what is, at one with the present moment, doesn't mean you no longer initiate change or become incapable of taking action. But the motivation to take action comes from a different level, not from egoic wanting or fearing. Inner alignment with the present moment opens your consciousness and brings it into alignment with the whole. of which the present moment is an integral part. The whole, the totality of life then acts through you. The way I read that, and the way, let me say, the way this is received in my space. And if you see that glow, I know it's an old movie, if you ever seen The Last Dragon, where Bruce Leroy is like, he got the glow. That means he's attained to the high level of enlightenment and awakening. That's been my prayer. That's so in my head, to a degree, I kind of look like this guy. His name is Goku. Okay. And when I'm walking around in my head, this picture and this particular character is just a reminder to me to don't fight against it. Just flow with it, be in the present moment, and let what happens around you happen around you. And then just let your body respond. Let your mind respond outside of the space of ego. What does it look like to respond outside of the space of ego, Will? What that looks like is that the moment my peace is disturbed, then I've entered into the ego space. But if I can respond to everything around me, everything in me, thoughts, words, or otherwise, and be at complete peace, then I'm on the right track. And so this is how God talks to me, and this is where I'm gonna wrap up, and then I want to hear from you guys for the last time. This is how it looks to me when the reality is that we all gonna still have to go through challenges on the course of the day. We're all gonna have to still deal with enemies. We're gonna all have to still deal with stuff. But the reality is that I've always prayed, God, how do we do that and still be in a space where I'm internally not moved? My emotions don't raise, my mind don't get all heated. You know, how do we get rid of all that? By getting rid of your ego. So what does that kind of look like? And so to me, I'm gonna bring y'all to my world for a half a second. And to me, this is what it looks like. And then I'll let you talk. Play my last video.
Feel that?
Yeah.
What are those tremors?
The ring. No, the entire null realm is being shaken by some sort of influx of power.
But what could it mean? What's causing it?
If you ask me, there's only one good answer. Yes, I agree. Time for the real fun to begin.
Beerus, my lord, is there something you wish to say?
Here it comes. Goku endures. What has he done? I don't know how to explain this, but based on what I'm sensing, it's safe to say he didn't survive on dumb luck.
Something's different about him, that's for sure. Yes, I'm sensing an incredible strength from him, and yet
his energy is so calm, it's giving me the creeps.
Let us watch and see what happens. After all, this is the first time even I have seen Goku in this curious state.
Goku may have only grazed Jiren, but he did connect. Considering he couldn't touch this guy in his blue form, that's saying something.
He's amazing. I've never seen my dad move like this before, not in any form. It's not just that he's a lot faster, it's more than that. I can't sense him transitioning to his attacks at all.
Yeah, his dodges are like that as well. What the hell is going on? I'm watching this with my own eyes, but I still can't believe what he's doing is actually possible. Kakarot, what have you become?
So that speaks to me in the sense of showing he still had to fight. But if you pay attention to the comments of everybody that was around him, it was obvious that something was different. So, and here's the part about this particular thing, why it blesses me so much. See, what you don't know about before he even got to that state, the enemies that were around him in that moment had already beat him down to the point of death. And people didn't even know if he was alive at that point. And it took him going to the point of death. It took him losing almost absolutely everything and every part of himself to wake up in that enlightened state where he was no longer thinking. He was completely at peace. And if you saw the scene where he was doing this, that was him looking at his body like, I have to get used to this new space. I don't know all of what's happening to me, but I know what's happening. And then he goes on to do whatever purpose he has in that moment to do. And so I thought that was pretty good. I hope that blessed you as well. And so with that being said, I know I heard some buzzing, but I didn't know what it was. I guess that was somebody trying to raise their hand. I want to open it up one more time because I want to hear from you guys. Hope this was beneficial to you. I enjoyed talking to you. So now can I hear what you've gotten from this so far, and how this helps you going forward? Whoever was raising their hands or whoever wants to talk, I want to hear from you. Talk to me. Anybody?
Hey, Will.
Okay, I heard
Hey.
two. Who's that?
Oh, this is Tawanda.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this whole thing, reading this book and everything, I'm telling you, I feel like I want to crawl up under a rock. So I'm just like sitting here. Everything you said, I was thinking like, okay, social media, you want to go on there and comment about this and that. Now I'm feeling like I want to shut down my social media. I really don't have too much to say. I am a talker. I was telling the group that, now when people call me and they want to vent, I'm always in my head trying to think, what to say next. Whereas lately, reading a book and everything, I don't have anything to say. So on the other end of the phone, if I'm on the phone, it's quiet. And then you'll hear the person say, hello, hello. And I'm like, I'm here. I'm just listening. So this is really good. I'm going to have to read this every day. I'm going to make this a part of my regimen for my life because I know I can easily slip back because I have an addictive personality. So this is really, really good.
It is. And let me, according to what you just said on, if you feel like you want to, and this is what I tell other people that's reading this book that I actually have conversations with. If you feel like you want to crawl under a rock and hide yourself and all that, then you're on the right path. Because this ain't, those of us that know that's doing this ain't a celebration follow-through type of book. Mm-hmm. If you feel like you run and hide, then you're on the right path because guess what? That's your ego trying to run and hide. Because your ego knows you're coming after him or her and they ain't trying to get dealt with. Right. If you've already had the thought of things that you need to get rid of, you out of your own spiritual mouth, you've already spoken it. You just have to silence your ego long enough to hear it.
Right.
And so whatever it is that you heard to do, I'm not jumping into that box, but whatever it is you heard to do, and you heard it when you said it with your own mouth, I'm just going to say, turn the volume down on the ego as it continues to die. and be in that present moment. But I thank you for sharing. Can I hear from somebody
Thank
else?
you.
I heard somebody else try to jump in.
Yes, it was me. This is Katie. I was going to say it was really, really interesting hearing about the chemicals thing, because I feel like that's what my substitute is trying to always feel happy or feel not upset, so that I'll dump that dopamine into my brain by just thinking thoughts of, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be the best this, I'm gonna be the best that. And then I also I found out that that's what brings on the crashing anxieties like that I get at night. But I think the book helped me most of all, because it would say it helped me to see that I'm not my essence isn't the anxiety, and it helped me to see that I don't have to give into it as much as, or give into it the way that I was. Instead, I can know that that's not who I am, and actually go into that place of peace whenever I practice it, put on some music, and then go into that state. So
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else got anything they want to add?
Me. Hey, it's Tammy Tamar. Um, I'm still getting through the book. I spoke with a great friend yesterday who's been telling me for a minute to to do the book on audio, but I've been fighting that because I got to have it paper, blah, 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 blah. Realizing told my friend yesterday that it was me being frugal to go get the book as opposed to doing the audio. But I'm realizing, okay, that's part of my ego as well. Doing everything else instead of basically doing what I was told. But I wanted to thank Jill for making that connection with the chemical as well. And I want to thank you for saying that I wrote it down. The moment my peace is disturbed is when I entered into the ego space. Um, I need to plaster that on my phone. Um, I I didn't think of it that way, but that's a great way for me to transition into another space in my life because I just, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Anybody else got anything before we wrap up?
This is Jill. One of the things that really helped me in another big way is that here's the question I asked myself because of where I was so long, and that's this: 2 words, alignment or involvement. Right now, if I'm getting ready to do something, because remember that ego, it is such a master of disguise. And so now I ask myself, whatever I'm getting ready to do, is it because I'm just getting involved, or is what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about doing for, am I in alignment with God's will? That's presence. That's purpose. Am I in alignment? Because being involved doesn't mean that you're aligned. And that is, so I think as a serving ministry, as all of us who, sold out, live, that's a lot of involvement. Yeah. That's not necessarily alignment.
That's true.
And that piece right there helped me go to another level, because involvement, when you're in this space, it all feels like the right space to be in.
Right.
So I have to ask myself another question to go deeper. Jill, are you in alignment with God? And then that makes me be still and give myself time, or that moment, an opportunity to expose the quick wisdom sounding responses that now my ego has hijacked the gift of God. We already learned that in message, and now am I can recognize, are you trying to boast a little bit? Are you covering a little bit? How do you know? All you got to do is ask yourself, am I in alignment with God? And that God that says, ask me anything and I will answer you. And it helps. It really helps. So are you in alignment? Are you in involvement? A wonderful thing to help.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like that one too. Thank you for sharing.
Hey, Will,
Hey.
I'm sitting in my clean room trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next.
Your room ain't clean.
I'm sitting in my clean room trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next. Love you, bro.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
Mr. Washington is
Ma'am.
I think one of the things, one of the things of the book, or a few things of the book, has definitely shown me. And I thank you, Jill, for bringing out, the chemical reaction. But I think, for me, it was also seeing what my triggers were, the things that I were, pointed out the things that were, addicted to. I was addicted to living at DEFCON 2, whether it was, a lot of made up drama. I see you smiling, Mr. Washington, but a lot of, right. DEFCON 1. Okay, DEFCON 1. Creating a lot of and what the book also showed me is that I created my own suffering, right? Like I, was the cause, not the adversary, not the devil, but that I contributed, and was the author of my suffering. And so in doing the book and just being able to just be still, I think mostly just the stillness of it and the enjoyment in that stillness. And just like the acceptance of the now, where being in that present moment, I just realized I'm not complaining. When I'm when I'm at work, I'm getting so much done because in each moment I'm present in that, and so, the takeaways is like many of you are, saying, is keeping that, I'm saying, walking, I'm saying, in that, keeping that, while I'm just staying in that present moment.
Thank you for sharing.
Hey, Will, it's Cab. I just want to thank God for bringing something like this into my space, a word that I didn't know about ego existed. Deron taught about it years ago, but evidently I wasn't participating or accepting that truth. But I find myself saying every day, God, you did it. You really did it. You got me out of a whole bunch of self-righteousness, darkness, and places that I thought I was going in the right way, but I wasn't. And the fact that he revealed that in the book about the universe and God bringing us to a place that we're ready for, helped me cooperate a lot more this time than I did the last time. So, and then this forum, I haven't talked to anyone about the book, just to talk here about it and just to hear people speaking. So everything is just working together to help me. And I just thank God for bringing it to Jill, bringing it to Eckhart, him going through what he had to go through to get this word to the earth. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Amen. Thank you for sharing. Let me get one or two more, just one or two more.
Hey, this is Stephanie. I'm really just grateful for this book. One, because before I started reading the book, it was a family situation that was happening, and I was, trying to be peacemaker. And as I was reading the book, it was like God revealed to me, it's like, okay, like Jill was saying, that chemical was like, oh, you addicted to the fix. And when I heard that, it was just like I just had to be quiet. I was thinking about calling people. I was like, nope. And it's just I came out of it. And it was like, oh my God. And just, me just being quiet and not trying to be the fix, but just being quiet. That was like egging on my ego. That's how my ego was kind of staying alive. Right. So just me being quiet in that. So I just really thank God for this book and just continue to stay present and hear from him.
Thank you for sharing. Amen. Give me one more. Anybody?
So y'all know the doctor and me like perked up with that video about chemicals. And I was thinking not just, something he said was the dopamine pleasure center. And the question that it left me with was, in any situation, like, Zahir, what is it that's giving you pleasure in this situation? If it's the fix, like Stephanie just said, whatever it is, if you're continuing to put yourselves or being brought into these situations, you're getting something pleasurable from it. So just do the deep work of figuring out what it is that situation. It might not be a drug, but you're getting pleasure from something in that situation.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing. And so here's my last word that I'll say on all this. Just by listening to you all, and however God gives it to you, the reality is that I'm hearing and discerning right now, and I pray that you see it within yourselves, and just within yourselves, because, and I say just within yourselves, because the ego is so slick that in a space like this, he'll try to slide in and get you caught up in talking about what other people said or did or doing, as opposed to keeping the focus right where it needs to be, and that's right in the mirror on you. And so the reality is that when we're all still long enough, the truth, God allows the truth to even come out of your own mouth. And if you're paying attention to you all, like I'm paying attention to you, you all have been speaking exactly what the next step, what the next move, or whatever. You hear it in the spirit. You hear it. You're saying it to yourselves. And if you haven't moved on it, it's because that ego is still fighting. It's still fighting. I said this to Jill recently, and I said it to Joy as well, where my ego's been kicked out. He's on the back porch. But the door's not closed, just the screen door is closed. And if you know how screen doors work, I can hear everything you're saying. I can still see you. And if he got upset enough, he could probably kick through the screen door if he wanted to. But the reality is that I still put you out the house. So just like the short video says, sometimes change takes a little bit of time. But don't allow that time to become ego time. Be present with how God is whispering to each one of you individually. Like you just said, Sahira, one of the last things you just said is that you're feeling that you need to identify whatever that pleasure center is for you. I would probably put money on it that you already have an idea what it is. And so now it's just a matter of surrendering that. Like on Joy's video, Joy wanted to start stuff because Joy got pleasure out of starting stuff. She got pleasure out of starting stuff. She got pleasure out of taking this peaceful man and making me less peaceful. Some people just like the drama sometimes. And so the blessing is that before we entered into this space, we were all just living. And we would have a hint, because the Spirit of God was still trying to get to us. We'd have a hint of, hey, look, let's take this left right here. But now it's like the road has cut off and we have no choice but to go left right here. And so my prayer for everybody here is that we don't try to straighten out the car to go straight when we're supposed to be going left right now. If you're uncomfortable, you are in the right space. If you find yourself internally trying to run, you don't want to finish the book because you're in the right space. That's just your ego trying to survive. Let it die. Let it die. And to God be the glory at the end. I believe we will all be much better people for it. If I can get any one of you guys that's out there that would be led to pray, I'll be glad to receive prayer. And it's full over all of this. And then we're going to say the amen. And that's going to be it.
I can pray.
We'll go ahead and pray this. Miss, I can pray. Whoever that was.
Dear God, thank you so much for being our Father, for loving us, for bringing this book into our space. God, thank you for the writer of the book. Thank you for the leaders of this church. God, help everything that was said and heard today to be with us as we go about our days. Help us to read the book, reread the book, help us to take every step that you want us to take in the present, and help us to look at each person that we see in the world as unconscious whenever they do something that we don't like, so that we can react in non-reactiveness and forgive them and forgive ourselves. Thank you again, and help us to continue in your name. In your name we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Play that song one more time on the way out, and I'll see y'all on the next one. God bless you.